Hello, today we're going to learn about writing mixed numbers as decimals. Now notice here we have the mixed number 5 and 1500ths. Now this part here, if we just separate it to 1500ths, you guys have all been learning how to write 1500ths as a decimal. And you should be able to write 1500ths, hearing hundredths, knowing you're going to have two digits to the right of my decimal point. So I'm going to draw my decimal point. I have a digit 1 in my tenths place and a 5 in my hundredths, representing 1500ths as a decimal, which is the same as 1500ths as a fraction. However, my whole number, instead of writing 0, notice here in my fraction, my whole number is a 5. So now instead of writing 0, I'm actually going to erase my 0 and I'm going to write a 5, representing that my whole number here is 5. So together, this mixed number 5 and 1500ths is the same as 5 and 1500ths. Now for this next problem here, we have 2 and 8700ths. Now this mixed number again, a mixed number consists that you have a whole number and a piece of a whole. My whole number here is a 2. So notice in my ones place, I'm going to draw a 2. But the second you hear that and, that means I need to write a decimal point, showing you that you have a whole number and a piece of a whole. So we have 2 and 8700ths. So now here, I'm just going to represent 8700ths. And again, hearing hundredths means you're going to have two digits after your decimal points. So 2 and 8700ths is the same as 2 and 8700ths. Every mixed number can also be represented as a decimal as well. And in 4th grade, you learn how to do that when your denominators are 10 or 100. In this next problem, we have 4 and 7/10. Now, when you hear tenths, that means I'm only going to have one digit after my decimal point. Even though we know that 7/10 is equivalent to 70 hundredths, but in this problem here, we can simply just use tenths. So we have 4 and showing me I have my decimal point, 7/10. Now notice all I'm doing is converting my mixed number into decimal form. So notice here my whole number is 4, my whole number here is 4, which is the digit to the left of my decimal point, represents my whole numbers. And 7/10 is representing 7/10 here, which is the digit right after my decimal point. And for our last problem, we have 8 and 900ths. Now again, we have 8 and, notice that's my whole number and my decimal point. And now 900ths, I hear hundredths, which means I will have two digits after my decimal point. So I'm going to represent 9 and put the digit 9 in my hundredths place. But in my tenths place, I still need to include something. I can't leave it blank, so I'm going to include a 0. Now this is still representing this exact fraction. 8 and 900ths is the same as 8 and 900ths. Notice these mixed numbers can be represented as decimals as well. These are both correct answers if you're looking to represent 8 and 900ths. However, it's important to read the directions to see if they would like your answer in fraction or decimal notation. Now, you guys have been learning all about decimals over the past few weeks, and this is the last component for our decimal units. I do believe if you apply everything we've been learning over the past few weeks about decimals and fractions as well, you will be able to complete today's tasks.